When Zekira starts, the first thing it does is build a big index of all of your files and information that it finds on your computer or on any other storage that's connected to it. I'm going to give you a demo on the PC, but remember it runs on both Mac and PC. Once indexing is done, Zekira displays a screen that looks like this. In the middle, there are 4 stacks showing the various types of information that we've collected. On the left, there's something labeled events, which shows basically all the meetings that we found. Next to it is a list of documents. So those are anything from Office files to PDFs to whatever else we found on your drive. Next to that is messages. Those are basically emails. And then finally after that is people, your contacts that we found during the indexing process. On the left side, there are several filters that you can use to narrow down the data set. On top, there's a filter that does time and date and other things related to that. Next, below that is keywords that you can look for. Below that is people's names. And then finally, at the bottom, you've got document types. So you can open that one and select different document types that you want to narrow down the filters to. So it could be maybe, say, PDFs and text files would be the only thing that you want to see. On the right side, there's a big list that we call the context list. This is a list of high priority keywords that we found in whatever's the current set of things that you looked for. So right now we've got the entire data set shown here, and as a result it's going to show you keywords that are relevant to my files, which is what I use for indexing this stuff. So I pulled a bunch of my old files, and I used to work at Palm, so you see Palm on there, mobile, handheld, Symbian, other keywords like that. So let's work through some examples of what you can do with Zekira. The first problem that I talked about earlier was somebody calls you on the phone and you recognize their name, but you can't remember what your context is with them. So how do you deal with that? Well, what you can do is just come over and click on the people filter and type in his name. In this case, it's Tom Shannon. We put that in, we hit OK, and now the system's going to show you all of our context relative to Tom. So first of all, there are any documents that either mention his name or that he authored or that he sent to you. On the right side, there's a listing of your contacts, both the contact information for Tom himself and any other people who have similar names. But for getting your context around somebody, the most important of these lists is the middle one that talks about your recent messages with them. So the most recent message you've exchanged with them is on the top. What you can do is just bring your mouse over and hover it on top of that message. You don't have to click, you don't have to open your email editor or anything, and we'll bring up the text of that message. In this case it says, Tom, there are 3 changes I want you to make to your plan. That's right. Tom was that guy who came and pitched me on this project he was working on, and I said he needed to make these 3 changes. So now I can immediately have a really focused conversation with Tom. So Tom, how's the project coming along? Have you made the changes that I asked you for? As opposed to the type of conversation that we don't want to admit to, but all of us have when we don't remember somebody, which is something along the lines of, hey, how's it going? What you been up to? Etc., etc., etc. So the second example was a case where you've got a meeting coming up and you can't remember the context around it. That's where you want to use the events list. It's organized so that your next upcoming meetings are listed first, so you can come over and just hover on top of one of those meetings and you can get the meeting invitation to it. Again, you don't have to go open any other program. We've already imported all of the text for it. What always happens to me is nobody's actually put any useful information in the Outlook record talking about the meeting, and so now I need to find other information in some other way. So what you can do now is click on that meeting record, and Zekira will do a search for everything related to it, basically looking for keywords in that meeting invitation. We find an email over here which says agenda for Devin Anderson meeting. Well, that's the thing I've been looking for. So let's click on that. And now I get the text of the agenda up here. I can just click through it. Again, I haven't had to open anything else. And now I see, oh, okay, I am presenting first, and furthermore I have to present on the Chewbacca project, which is this development project that I've been driving. Now I have a new problem. How do I find what's going on with Chewbacca really, really quickly? Well, that's where you use the context list. If you look over there, you can see all the unusual keywords in this record have been queued up, including Chewbacca itself. So I can just go over and click on that, and now we do a search for everything related to Chewbacca, and there they are, the Chewbacca status reports. I hover on top of the most recent one, and now I'm ready for the meeting. So the third example was a really tricky one. You know there's this guy that you met at the CES conference in Las Vegas, I don't know, a few years ago. You don't remember his name, you don't remember his company name, but you really need to find some information that he sent to you. How are you going to get to it? So what you can do is you can use Zekira to narrow down the search based on any little bits of information that you do remember. In this case, I remember a little bit about when the meeting was approximately. So we can open up the time filter. What do I remember? Well, it was within the last couple of years. So let's narrow down the year range to the last couple of years. And then this was the CES conference. And I know that's always in January, so we can set the month to January. And furthermore, CES is always in the first half of January, so we can set the dates to the first half. If I remembered a time or a day of the week or something like that, I could set that as well. Now what Zekira will do is it'll display just the records that fall within that particular time constraint. I can just flip through the listing of events and find the one that I know is the right one. In this case, it's this meeting with Tony Rain. So what I can do is click on that to get information relevant to that meeting. Among the things that it brings up is my correspondence with Tony there in the messages list. And I want to look at the most recent message I got from him because I remember that he put an enclosure in it that talked about the work that he's been doing. So I open the message, I go to the attachments, I can click on the attachment, and now I'll get Zekira's record for that attachment. And again, notice this is a PowerPoint presentation, but I don't have to go open PowerPoint. I can get the text from it right here. I scroll through it really quickly, and I notice the name of Professor Larry Samet. That's right, that's the guy that Tony had referred me to. So now I want to find some correspondence that Larry sent to me. Samet is an unusual word, so I can go over to the context list, check here, and sure enough it shows up right there, so I can click on that. Now I get everything related to Larry Samet, correspondence I did with him, but also the document that he sent to me talking about his research. I can click on that. It's a Word document, but again the text is available to me, so I can immediately go through that and read through it, and I've got the information that I needed. Okay. So what have we done here? We've gone from a vague memory of a meeting to finding the meeting, to finding the guy's name from the meeting, to finding the correspondence with him, to the enclosure there, to the name that it's in there, to the correspondence with that guy to get an enclosure from him. And we've done it quickly enough that you could have done this in the background during a meeting or a phone call or just sitting at your desk for a minute. At any rate, it's fast enough that you can do this sort of lookup, be productive, and get on with your life. Basically, we've brought your past back to you and helped you reestablish context around something that otherwise would have been very, very difficult to find. That's what Zekira is all about.